Hello everyone, my name is Arya Devdar and this is part 3 of NCERT Class 10 Science, Chapter 2, Acids, Bases and Salts. Okay, so in the last part, we covered three of the important reactions, right? So we started with the reaction of metals with acids and bases. Then we saw metal carbonates and metal bicarbonates with acids, right? And they do not react with the base, correct? And we also saw the neutralization reaction, that is acid-base reaction, correct? So in this part, we are going to see some further reactions. Okay, so the first one we are going to be seeing is reaction of metal oxide with acid. Okay, so reaction of metal oxide with acid. The second reaction is the reaction of non-metallic oxide with base. I'm sorry, oxide with base. So again, these are very important. They are asked quite often in the boards, right? After that, we have the ions, which ions are present in acids and bases, right? So ions present in acids and bases. So basically, what do all acids and all bases, what do they have in common? So a type of ion, right? All acids have the same ion or bases have the same ion present in it. So we're going to see more about that. And lastly, we are going to see the dilution of an acid or a base. What exactly is dilution, right? The process and what is the correct way of diluting an acid. Okay, so let's start with the first one, reaction of metallic oxide with acids. So what happens when a metallic oxide reacts with an acid? So I write down the general equation and then we'll see some examples. So a metal oxide plus acid, it gives salt plus water. Okay, so just a like brief uh, in information about what metallic oxides are, right? So metallic oxides are basically like examples, Na2O, MgO, PbO, etc. Right? So Na, Mg, Pb, all of these are metals, and when they are combined with oxides, then they form metal oxides. Okay. So that's basically what metal oxides are. So metal oxides, they react with acid to give salt and water. Okay, so let's see some examples and then we'll derive a conclusion from this. Okay, so the first example we'll see, it is CuO, so metal oxide CuO plus acid HCl, correct? This, when both are reacted, it gives CuCl2 plus H2. Okay, CuO is copper oxide, right? A metal oxide, obviously. Or you can also write it as copper 2 oxide because here the valency of copper is +2. Oxygen -2, copper +2. So hence it is also called copper 2 oxide. Okay. Then we have hydrochloric acid. So you are already familiar with this. Hydrochloric acid. This CuCl2 is copper chloride or copper 2 chloride, again, whichever. Copper chloride, and H2 is water. So copper chloride is basically a salt. Okay, and this salt, it is bluish green in color. Okay, so that is how we can determine that CuCl2 has been formed. Correct? So bluish green precipitate is formed here. Okay. So hence in this way, CO reacts with HCl to give CuCl2 plus H2. Okay, we'll see one more example. Let's take PbO. So PbO is lead oxide plus HCl or HNO3. HNO3 is nitric acid. It gives PbNO3 whole bracket twice plus H2. Okay. So PbO is lead oxide, right? Again a metallic oxide. HNO3 is nitric acid. Okay. PbNO3 is a salt which is lead nitrate. Okay, its name is lead nitrate and H2 is water. Okay, I must tell you that all of these acids, they are diluted, right? They are not concentrated. So diluted acids are used. Okay, so PbO plus HNO3, it gives PbNO3 whole bracket twice plus H2. So this is balanced. This is also balanced. Okay, so these are two examples of metallic oxide reacting with acids. So now if you see this carefully, you will notice that metallic oxide plus acid, it produces salt plus water. Now, salt plus water, we have also seen in one of the above examples. So we have also seen this here in neutralization reaction, right? If you remember. So here acid plus base, or I should say base plus acid forms salt plus water. And here metallic oxide plus acid forms salt plus water. So I think we can conclude from this that metallic oxide behaves like a base, or they are said to be basic oxides. Okay, due to this very reason that it acts like a base when it reacts with acid, it forms salt and water. Hence, metallic oxides, they are known as basic oxides. So this is important, right? So note, metallic oxides are known as basic oxides. So all these Na2O, H2, not H2O, sorry, Na2O, CuO, PbO, MgO, all of these, they are basic oxides. All metallic oxides are basic oxides. Okay, understood? Okay, now we'll move on to the second reaction, which is reaction of non-metallic oxides with bases. So the first one was metallic with acids. Now this is non-metallic with bases. Now you might predict what will happen here, right? So I'll write the general formula. So non-metallic oxide plus base, right? This gives again salt plus water. Okay, so non-metallic oxides, some examples: CO2, NO2, etc. Right? So basically, all the non-metals, when they combine with oxygen, it forms a non-metallic oxide. SO2, SO3, right? All of these, they are non-metallic oxides. Correct? Bases, again it forms salt and water. So let's see some examples here. One of the examples which I'm giving, we have already seen it as a test for CO2. Right? If you remember, we combined CaOH twice, right? Plus CO2 to give us CaCO3 plus H2O. Okay, so CaOH twice is a base, it is calcium hydroxide. Calcium hydroxide. CO2 is carbon dioxide, a non-metallic oxide. Correct? Carbon is a non-metal. CaCO3 is calcium carbonate. Right? Calcium carbonate, otherwise or commonly known as limestone, chalk, marble, etc. And H2O is water. Okay, so this is one of the examples of non-metallic oxide reacting with a base, right? So CaCO3 is white in color, so hence we can predict that CaCO3 has been formed in the reaction. Okay, so this is one example. Another example will take of, say, NaOH, right? So we'll take NaOH as our base. NaOH is sodium hydroxide. So sodium hydroxide and CO2, right? So the same non-metallic oxide. So this gives us Na2CO3 plus H2O. Okay, Na2CO3 plus H2O. NaOH is sodium hydroxide. Correct? CO2 is carbon dioxide. Na2CO3, it is sodium carbonate. Again a salt. Okay, sodium carbonate, Na2CO3. And H2O is water. Okay, so this is another example of your non-metallic oxide plus base reaction. Now again, from here we'll draw a conclusion. If you see carefully, non-metallic oxide plus base, it gives us salt plus water. So we can conclude that non-metallic oxides are also known as acidic oxides. Correct? So here I'll write it down. Non-metallic oxides are known as acidic oxides. Correct? So this is very important. Again, as I said, so non-metallic are acidic and metallic are basic. So in the way in which you can remember this, you can remember one and you'll understand the other. So basically, acidic oxides are CO2, NO2, SO2, right? So we know about acid rain, correct? So in acid rain, what happens is the greenhouse gases or like the poisonous gases, so CO2, SO2, SO3, all of these, they combine with rainwater, and it falls on the earth as acid rain, right? So why is it known as acid rain? It is because CO2 and SO2 are acidic in nature. So in this way, you can remember that these acids or non-metallic oxides, they are known as acidic oxides. And the other way around, metallic oxides are known as basic oxides. Understood? Okay. So those are the first two reactions done. Now we'll move on to the ions present in acids and bases. Okay, so basically what is common in all acids and what is common in all bases. So here, what we'll do an experiment to find out the ions present. Okay, so for example, if you have a beaker of water, right? If you have a beaker of water here, right? And in it, right, this is water, okay? And in it, if you put some HCl, okay, if a few drops of HCl, okay, so if you add HCl, right, so when it dissolves in water, it starts to dissolve in water, right? So what happens in the beaker? H plus ions and Cl minus ions, they get separated out. So you have H plus Cl minus, H plus Cl minus, H plus Cl minus, all inside the beaker. Okay, so this is what happens when it is dissolved in water. Okay, now instead of HCl, if you put H2SO4, right? If you put H2SO4, then this H2SO4, it will um, divide into H plus and SO4 2 minus. Okay, so are you seeing the pattern? If you put HNO3, nitric acid, you get H plus NO3 minus. Okay, so if you see a pattern here, all of these acids, they are dividing into a cation and an anion, cation, anion, cation, anion, right? And if you notice, all the cations, they are the same. Anions are changing, Cl minus, SO4 minus, NO3 minus, etc., etc. But all the cations, they are same. Okay, I'll give you one more example here. It's an interesting example. So you have CH3COOH. This is known as acetic acid, right? You will learn more about this in your organic chemistry part. But this dissolves in water to form H plus and CH3COO minus. So again, you can see H plus has been formed, correct? So this basically indicates that whenever an acid is dissolved in water, it gives out H plus ions, right? So I'll write that down here. When acid is dissolved in water, H2O, it produces H plus ions. H plus ions. Okay, so again, very, very, very important here, right? But then there is one more thing, right? Interesting thing. What happens is these H plus ions, they are not stable in water. Okay, so they combine with H2O molecule. Okay, so these H plus ions, they combine with H2O molecule and they form a new type of ion, which is H3O plus. This ion, it is known as hydronium ion. Okay, it is known as a hydronium ion. So when you write the reaction, like if you write it's, for example, I'll give an example, HCl, right? So if you write HCl plus H2O, right? Like here on the arrow, right? So if you add it in H2O, it will form H plus and Cl minus, right? If you write it in this way, underneath H plus, you have to write aqueous. So it is present in water, right? Or you can also write this reaction HCl in the presence of H2O produces H3O plus and Cl minus ions. Here you don't have to write aqueous because you have combined H2O and H plus ion and you have written the hydronium ion. Right? So these are the two ways of writing the reaction. Okay. So now we know what is common in all acids. All acids contain H plus ions, hydrogen ions. Right? Now we'll see what happens in bases. Right? So again, you take your beaker, right? And you have water in it. Now, for example, you put NaOH. You put NaOH inside, correct? What happens? This NaOH, it splits into Na plus OH minus, Na plus OH minus, Na plus OH minus, right? So basically, NaOH, it splits into Na plus and OH minus ions. Okay, now if you put, for example, COH twice, again a base, right? It will form Ca2 plus OH minus. Ca2 plus OH minus, correct? If you put MgOH twice, magnesium hydroxide, again a base, it will form Mg2 plus OH minus ions. Again, you can see that when you put a base inside your water, it forms a cation, anion, cation, anion, cation, anion. And here, if you notice, all the anions, they are same. Common anions, all of them, they are same. So which are they? OH minus. OH minus ions are also known as hydroxide ions, right? So hence the name of the bases: sodium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide. So hydroxide ions are present in it. So as we wrote in acids that when acid is dissolved in H2O, it produces H plus ions. So here I'll write when base is dissolved or when bases are dissolved in H2O, they form OH minus ions. Okay, so this is a characteristic property of bases. They form OH minus ions, hydroxide ions. Okay, so here when you write the reaction, for example, if you write NaOH in presence of H2O, it gives Na plus OH minus. Okay, so OH minus you have to write aqueous. Similarly, for example, you write MgOH twice in presence of H2O, it gives, Mg2 plus 2OH minus, right, to balance the reaction. Right, so aqueous again here, aqueous, so 2OH minus aqueous. Okay, so this is the way you write the reaction. But you have to remember one thing, that all bases, they are not soluble in water, or they do not dissolve in water. Okay, so I'll write this down. It's a note point, sort of. All bases are not soluble in water. Okay, they all do not dissolve in water. Okay, so strong bases, NaOH, COH twice, right? They all dissolve in water. Some of them, like, I mean to say. But not all. So the bases which do dissolve in water, they are known as alkalis. Which dissolve in water are known as alkalis. Okay, alkalis. Okay, so just remember them, right? Now we'll see one more thing which we have already seen in the neutralization reaction. We'll talk about the mechanism of the neutralization reaction. So how exactly things take place, right? So we know that an acid plus a base, it gives salt plus water, correct? But for example, here, if we take the acid in general to be HX, right? And if we take it plus MOH. So here H and M can be any element, right? H and M can be, I'm sorry, X and M can be any element. H plus is confirmed or it is mandatory in acids, and OH minus is mandatory in bases, right? So this is a general way of writing acids and bases. So here the mechanism which takes place, this X and M, they separate out and they form a salt, right? So they form the salt MX, and the OH minus and H plus ions, they combine to form H2O. Okay, so here I'll write it separately. H plus plus OH minus, right? Both of these are aqueous, right? Aqueous, they form H2O. H2O is a liquid, correct? Okay. Okay, so this is the basic mechanism of a neutralization reaction, right? Neutralize, I'll write it down, neutralization reaction, basic mechanism. Okay. Okay, now we'll move on to the last part, which is acid-base dilution. Okay, so what is basically dilution? Dilution in layman language means adding water to an acid or a base. That is basically known as dilution. Okay, so now we'll just see what exactly it is and then I'll give you the proper definition. Okay, so the thing is that when an acid or a base, it is dissolved in water, it produces a lot of heat. A huge amount of heat is produced. So it is an exothermic, highly exothermic reaction. Okay, so I'll write it down. Highly exothermic reaction. Okay, so this has to be done very carefully or else you can harm yourself, right? The dissolving or the dilution of acids and bases, especially the ones which are very corrosive, very strong, like HCl, H2SO4, NaOH, etc. Right? So, what is the correct procedure? Like, should water be added to an acid or should acid be added to water? Right? So, always remember that acid should be added to the water and not vice versa. Okay, I'll write this here. Acid should be added to water and not vice versa, right? Remember this, it is very important. In the boards they usually ask the MCQ, like what is the correct way of diluting an acid, right? So there are four options, like acid should be added to water, water to acid, both simultaneously, and the fourth option is something like that. Okay, so the correct answer is always acid should be added to water. So what is the reason behind this, right? ऐसे ही हवा में बोल दिया नहीं ना, right? So what exactly is the mechanism? Okay, so see, when acid is added to water, as I said, it is a highly exothermic reaction. So that means a huge amount of heat is produced, correct? So basically, when acid is added to water, the water, it absorbs the heat which is produced, right? It has the capability of absorbing the heat produced, right? So hence, the heat, it does not make the mixture splash out or cause burns, right? So that is why acid should be added to water with constant stirring, right? If you stir it, the heat will be absorbed or it will be completely distributed evenly in the water. On the contrary, if you add water to acid, then what will happen? The acid, it will react so violently that if it is in a glass container, for example, the glass container may break due to the excessive force or excessive heat produced, right? So, and it can also cause burns to whoever is diluting the acid. So that is why the correct way of diluting an acid is always acid to water or base to water, whichever. You might have also seen that on concentrated acids or like those sodium hydroxide pellets which are available, right? it is written harmful, do not touch, warning signs are there, right? So there is a reason for that. They are very harmful if they come in direct contact with human skin, right? So that is why acid should be added to water. So it can also come as a give reason. So this is the reason you should give. Okay. Now I'll give you the proper definition and then that's the end, right? So the proper definition of dilution, it is the process of mixing an acid, or a base with water, which results in the decrease of the concentration of ions. So either H3O plus slash OS minus, right? Concentration of ions per unit volume. So it is obvious, right? When you add a lot of water in a particular acid, the concentration of like ions in the acid, it will go on decreasing as you add excessive water. So that is basically the definition of dilution, the process of mixing an acid with water or base, which results in the decrease of the concentration of ions. It is known as dilution. Okay, so that's it for this video. We saw four more important reactions, right? Or two reactions, and then we saw like some concepts. So the ions and then dilution, right? So that's it for this video. Thank you so much.